Time now for the Sports Six Pack with Andrew Rogers.
You know what to do. Send in your questions for the Sports Six Pack. Your first one's probably like, Andrew, why are you wearing a stocking cap inside? Well, I went from just like a normal hat to a stocking cap because it's cold outside, and then realized that, if I take off this hat, my hair is going to be all over the place. So that's the short answer. The long answer, if I wanted to come up with some type of excuse, I'd tell you it's the Blues. They're on a winning streak right now, and we're rocking and rolling with the Blues hat. Forever.
I don't like it.
Forever.
I don't like it.
Shaner.
Is that the same color that the same color blue that the Cardinals roll with?
Is it the powder blue? I guess, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. This is the Winter Classic hat.
I don't like it.
The Winter Classic hat's dope. Okay, before we get to the questions, remember, go to Hale Varsity Club to drink your six-pack every time you listen to this show, or maybe on the way to Hale Varsity Club. Listen to this show, drink some beer, have some fun. Shaner's got them loaded up. Kick us off.
Question number 1.
So Nebraska opens up as a 9-point dog to Iowa. Fair or unfair?
I think it's fair.
Okay.
Iowa's been on a tear. The worry isn't how many points the Iowa offense will put up in this game. It's how many points the Nebraska offense will be able to muster up against this defense that ranks in the top 10, top 15 in almost every single defensive category. In 5 straight losses, they've only scored 14 points one time, and that was against Purdue. Iowa did surrender 300 rushing yards to Minnesota last week, a game the Golden Gophers should have won. Ibrahim wants that ball back, that late fumble. $1 million question is, can the Huskers get the run game going, though? Because we haven't seen it lately.
Ever.
The past 2 weeks, it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
And 4 out of the last 6, they haven't rushed for over 70 yards, or 75 yards, I should say.
Right.
It's been like 75, 69, 60 here. You played a lot of good defenses in that stretch, and I do want to make that a caveat to this. But aside from that, you have to be able to run the football like Minnesota did last week against Iowa. Nebraska doesn't have a Mo Ibrahim. I get it. But you do have potential to get Anthony Grant's legs going in this game and really cause a stir to the Iowa defense.
Question number 2.
So the World Cup starts today. How far do you see the U.S. going?
It's a young team. It's a really young team. I think they are the youngest team in the FIFA World Cup this year. No, that is correct. I'm reading it right now. Their average age is 23 on this team. So a lot of inexperience in the group stage that they're in, too. It's a tough one. I mean, anytime you have England in your group stage, it's hard. A lot of good players on this team, though. Pulisic really needs to step up and be a hero, though. And it always seems that way. Whenever the U.S. is in the World Cup, it's like one guy. They're putting all their weight on one guy's shoulders, and that's how they move forward. I mean, some of the most iconic moments in World Cup history I remember growing up was just watching Landon Donovan find ways to score goals. They need that on this team. You have a very inexperienced goaltender, too. You don't have a Tim Howard like you did back then. None of these guys on the roster have World Cup experience, right? Am I wrong when I say that?
No.
So just overall, I think they can do damage. But it's so hard to really just sit back and say, like, yes, they're going to go really far. I mean, I'm reading a stat right now. 25 of the 26 players have the opportunity to make their World Cup debuts. I mean, that's remarkable when you think about it. So there's some good and there's some bad with that, right? The good, if you can put together a really solid roster and they do some damage so early on in their careers, just think about what they can do as the World Cup comes and goes 4 years down the line, right? The bad, you start with a lot of inexperience and you face off against a lot of those veteran groups that have been together for so long that may be fizzling out in their soccer careers and want to win a World Cup before they go.
Question number 3.
Are the Vikings as good as their 8-2 record?
Man, what a loss that was for them. An eye-opening loss at that. 40-3 to the Cowboys. Man, you can't lose like that. Not this team. And the teams that you lost to this year are teams you're going to have to beat to get to the Super Bowl. It's the Cowboys, yes, but it's also the Eagles. And you look at the Eagles, and defensively, the Eagles are in much better shape than the Vikings. You're looking at one of the worst defenses in the NFL when you look at the Minnesota Vikings. They have the offense to be a firepower, but defensively, I mean, they've had some major issues. 0 linebacker speed. Nobody could contain Pollard over the weekend.
Nobody.
And Zeke still had a big game, and there were question marks surrounding him if he was done, right?
Right.
Tony Pollard kind of giving this offense a resurgence. The next man up mentality kind of worked in this case. But yeah, I look at the Eagles, man, and you know, the addition of Darius Slay makes them such a good defensive contender. The Vikings. I don't know. You asked the question, are they as good as their 8-2 record? I don't think so.
Are the Vikings as good as their 8-2 record?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm. You know what? And I may just be thinking too hard in this moment because it's such a fresh slap in the face type loss for Vikings fans. And maybe they needed it. Maybe they needed that kick in the rear to say like, hey, take a glass of humbleness, adjust, find ways to win football games moving forward. But losses of 37 points and you're the best team in the NFC North, that can't happen.
Question number 4.
Where do you see the Vols dropping in the rankings after not only their blowout loss to SC, but losing Hidden Hooker as well?
Yeah, so question there, playoff rankings, because I believe they dropped to 9th already. But they're out, man. They're out. They're not winning football games without Hendon Hooker for one. But that's it. U.S.A.
And there was a lot of people on the Vols like a week ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was more a desire. It was more a desire for fans to say, like, hey, let's get somebody new in there.
Right.
You know, you see the same 4 teams recycled year after year. Yes, TCU is still finding their way to win football games, but for the longest time, it's always been the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Clemsons. In and out Michigan, right? And Michigan avoided a scare too. But aside from that, you know, you see a Tennessee team that high, and Tennessee hasn't been there in God knows how long. It was more of a, hey, you know, how cool would it be just to see a new team? Fans love to say that. Well, you can say that about U.S.A., right? U.S.A. hasn't been there in a good period of time. Yes, it's essentially the Oklahoma team we saw last year. Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, the rest of the staff. You add Jordan Addison from Pitt. So you get some fresh faces. There's still the potential for a Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, USC. I think so. Now, if Michigan ends up beating Ohio State this week, then it's cause for concern for TCU more than USC if UNC wins out. And that's an interesting question. So if USC wins out, right, and they just took down a top 10 team in UCLA, and then they go on and beat Notre Dame, ranked team, and then they go on and beat, is it Oregon? Is that who they end up playing? So you beat 3 ranked teams opposed to TCU just kind of meandering through the Big 12. Like, do you put a 1-loss team above an undefeated TCU team if USC is to win the Pac-12 and TCU wins the Big 12? Or do you keep the undefeated team in there? That's, you know, maybe a question DB and I talk about in the near future, because I honestly think that USC would get my vote over TCU in that case.
Question number 5.
How do people make bets like Josh Palmer first touchdown and Travis Kelce 3+ touchdowns and have the kahunas to put $20 on?
I don't know. I have no clue. I feel like people are just throwing their money away when they place bets now, and then they're the ones that go viral. And it really only takes one crazy bet to put you in the money, in plus money. And in this case, like I would love to know the odds of a bet like that going into this football game. A first touchdown from wide receiver 3 on the Chargers and 3+ touchdowns to a guy that does dust the Chargers. But scoring 3 touchdowns in a football game is rare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce can do it, has probably done it the most out of anybody I've seen recently. But aside from that, putting $20 on that, like that to me, if I was sitting in my chair and said I queued up that bet, I'd be putting like $1.50 on that. $20, man, you know what $20 can get me? A lot. Give me half of my gas tank right now. But now, I don't remember how much you won. 90,000. That'd give me a lot of tanks of gas.
That'd be a lot of gas.
Question number 6.
Let's find out if you're right. Is the Creighton OU too low today or right on the nose?
Yeah, when this comes out, that game's going to be over. So will I be right? I'm going to say that it will be low scoring. When Creighton plays good defenses, and they haven't really played a good defense this year, which is why their scores have been high scoring. But when they play good defenses, they tend to sit around the 64-point mark. And if I think they're winning this basketball game, I could see it being 64-60. And with a score like that, that's 13 points lower than the over-under that they're being given right now. I think that's a really good scoring margin to attack here. I think the spread is about on. Creighton shoots the ball better than any other. I say better, as good. I'll play that safe when I say that. As good as any other college basketball team out there. They could be the best shooting basketball team if they want to be. And they could end up putting 80 points on Texas Tech. They really could. If they shoot like they have been the last 3 games, I would not be surprised in the least if they did that. But if they were able to do that and, they beat Texas Tech, then they go on and beat Arkansas, and then they go on to beat another top 25 team and win the Maui Invitational. Shaner, I'm telling you, this Creighton team will be in the Final Four, no doubt.
Feeling tipsy yet? Catch more of Andrew Rogers from 7 to 9 in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio.